How do you give effective feedback? This is something that I feel like I've always been kind of gifted to be able to give this. And it's probably because I've always been more of a kind person, anyways. And I've seen the way that people have treated me. And I didn't want to treat people that way. But giving effective feedback, especially in a situation that could turn into something hostile, whenever you're having to give bad feedback or give constructive feedback, is something that's difficult. So I want us to break this into two things. I'm going to focus in on the constructive feedback, trying to not discipline somebody necessarily, but how I go about it and how I suggest you go about doing this. But first, I want to give like actual effective feedback. So the first thing when it comes to more of a positive kind of feedback, we're giving still constructive, but it's a positive message overall. We're not trying to correct somebody and tell them what they're doing wrong and how we would like them to fix it, but they're doing something right. So how do we go about giving that? Well, first, you need to acknowledge the person. And this is always the easier one for the most part. Some of us still, myself included, struggle with actually giving feedback to people and remembering that. So you really need to first remember, hey, I should give this person some feedback. I haven't done it in a while, so let me go ahead and do that. But then secondly, you need to be very clear and concise about what that feedback is. So don't just say, hey, I think you've been doing a really good job. Good job on what? What does that mean? How long are you talking about? Are you talking about over the last year that I've been doing a good job? Is it just this last month, this last week? Where did I start doing a good job? So not only, I wouldn't worry about the time frame per se, but when you just say, hey, I think you're doing a good job, people tend to think, oh, over the last year, because there's annual reviews and everything like that if you're working in a corporate world, corporate setting. So over the last year, you've probably been doing a good job, or maybe you're new into the role. So ever since you got into the role, you've been doing a good job. But that is not specific enough. So we need to make sure that we're being very specific to say, hey, I think you've been doing a really good job at leading meetings. Or, hey, I think you've been doing a really good job taking care of the project that you've been working on here. You're communicating very well with your team, letting them know what's going on every step of the way. And that's the feedback that I've been receiving. If you can let them know not only you think that as the leader, as their boss, but the people that they work around or other managers and what they think, that's going to go even further than you simply just giving that feedback. But you want to make sure that you're very specific on that. And if there is a little bit of correction, say what you would like to see improved on. Or even if there's not a correction per se with this, and I know we're going to talk about like a real correction here in a second, but if it's something that you really like, really dial into that. And I like to always give next steps, some kind of action, some kind of takeaway at the end of the feedback by saying, and I really appreciate you doing this specific thing. Keep doing that. You're doing a great job. That allows the person to know that literally that is a thing that is good. Hey, really appreciate you making sure that you send out meeting minutes after every one of your meetings. It doesn't go unnoticed, and it really helps the team out to make sure that they know what happened in that meeting, and they can go back and refer to those meeting notes. So keep doing those meeting notes, the meeting minutes. It is really helpful for the team. And right there, they know, okay, cool, I'm getting feedback. I should keep doing this. And it doesn't have to be a huge praise. I mean, something simple like that, like acknowledging, hey, been seeing you're doing this. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Keep doing it. Letting your team members know is a great thing. And if it's not a team member, it could even be your spouse. Hey, really been enjoying the cooking that you're doing. I love this meal that you cooked the other day. I thought it was really good. Or anything, your kids, you can start telling them, complimenting them. Hey, my little girl, we're trying to get her to say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, please, no, please, things like that. And so when she does that, we compliment her on that. Wow, such good manners. Or, hey, you were so good today. Really appreciate you being such a good girl. I had such a great day with you. And I know that's a little generic, but she's not even 3 yet, so it's going to be pretty generic. But just constantly reinforcing that positive feedback for her, and that turns into something that's effective. But on the constructive side now, where we're going to be confronting something that is not going right, there's a couple of things here. Most people probably have heard of the sandwich method, and you probably have heard of that too. But within that sandwich method, and if you don't know what it is, it's a positive, the negative, and then a positive. So you are putting the negative inside 2 positives, which is a great method. And I like to use that, but I would like to get more clear and concise than that. So I have the sandwich method, but I make sure that I'm very clear on that negative thing. This is the thing. And I don't say, this is the problem I have with you, unless it's really at that point that I need to just be that blunt. But I'll say, hey, I've been noticing this going on, and this is just my input on this. So please, if you have something to say about this, don't think that I'm just correct, because I don't know what's going on in your personal life. And I'll kind of explain it that way, but I like to be very clear at the beginning. Here is the issue that I have with you. And then I'll go into maybe some, to lighten that burden a little bit. I'll say, now, maybe I'm not seeing the full picture here, so please explain to me if I'm missing something here, but this is just what I'm seeing. This is my perspective. Now, if I have had multiple conversations with this person, I'm going to be very blunt about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it with that little extra there. Hey, this is my perspective. No, I'm going to say, this is what's been happening. We've talked about this a couple times, and we need to get this fixed. And of course, say something good at the beginning, then have that very concise, very clear point of what's the issue. And one issue, not 500 things. One thing is what I want you to talk about in this, and then come back with something positive. But you still do a great job with everything that you're doing. Really appreciate the hard work that you put in. I'm just seeing this one area that we really need to work on. And then with that, then we're giving clear action steps afterwards. So we have the sandwich method. We're very clear and concise. And then we have some action step, much like the positive feedback that I talked about just a second ago. With the negative feedback, we need to say, and this is what I expect from you going forward. This is our direction we're going to go. It's much like with the positive feedback. Okay, cool. They kind of like that, but I don't know, or they think I'm doing a good job, but what am I doing a good job with? What should I keep doing? Same thing with the negative side. Okay, so I'm not doing this right, but what is right? And so this is even more crucial for you to say, do this thing. This is what I want you to do to fix it. And you could go in and ask, what do they think they should do to fix it, and get their feedback. There's all sorts of ways, but depending on the situation, sometimes you just, again, clear and concise. This is what I want you to do. This is the direction we need to go. But there is one caveat to this. Time. You want to make sure that when this is happening, that you nip it in the bud. You get to it as soon as you can. You don't call that person out right in the middle of the floor if it happened, unless if there are situations, but most situations you don't need to immediately go in and have that conversation. So you can wait till things cool off, wait till you're not in front of everybody. Hey, hey, Philip, you got a couple of minutes? I want to talk to you about something real quick. Okay, what's going on, Philip? And then go into that sandwich method, and then be clear and concise with that thing that you are not liking that they need to fix, and then give the takeaway after that. So what I like to do is be as timely as possible, as close to the situation as possible, so it's fresh on my mind, it's fresh on their mind, because if you wait 2 or 3 weeks and it bothered you and they didn't think anything of it, why is it bothering you? Why are you bringing it up now? I don't even remember. Like, it wasn't even a big deal for them. And it may not be, even if you brought it up literally an hour later. but at least they can remember, oh, I guess I did say that. I didn't realize that was going to be something that would offend you. And so, but they can remember it. So time is the first thing. The second thing is the sandwich method. You want to make sure positive, negative, that's clear and concise. So I'd say 2B, making sure it's clear and concise with that negative feedback where you're saying, this is the issue I have with you, essentially. And then come back with a positive thing at the end. And then follow that with number 3, follow that up with clear and concise next steps. What do they need to do to fix this wrongdoing? They may know, but you also need to say, this is what you need to do. So for example, if somebody is being tardy, they're constantly not showing up on time, or they show up on time and then they're late, they show up on time, they're late. Yeah, they're still getting their work done, but you're seeing that impact on the rest of the team that, hey, maybe I don't need to show up on time. The boss, Philip, never says anything to them. And John over here, he's just coming in whenever. And there's nothing to it. So you go to John finally and you say, hey, John, you do such amazing work. I really appreciate how hard working you are and dedicated you are to the job. The thing is, though, that you're hurting the team, and it's hard for me to lead the team when you're over here. You're a high performer, but you're coming in at random times, and we can't 100% depend on you to be here on time, which then harms the team. So while you are doing an amazing job at your job, when you're here, we're struggling to know if you're going to be here, if we can depend on you. So this is just our perspective on what we're seeing here, and I have had some of the team kind of come up and talk to me. I'm not going to say who it is, but some of the team has talked to me about this, and they're bringing it to me because they're concerned. They like you. They want to work with you. They like working with you, but it is hard for them to be able to do their job because they don't know if you're going to be there to help out or if they have to do everything on their own. So we really just want to make sure that you are here on time. So what's going on in your life? And then maybe they give something there and say, okay, well, hey, if there is something that truly comes up, I understand things come up. I'm not expecting that this is going to be 100%. You're never going to be tardy for any reason. We're all human. I've been there where I've been late for whatever reason. Alarm clock doesn't go off, but I really need you to start checking in with me. Like we need to make sure that you're here on time. I want you to start being even 5 minutes early. Now, I'm not asking for a lot, but just 5 minutes early, showing people that you are going to be here on time. Because even if you show up right at the time you're supposed to be here, people are still wondering if you're going to show up or not. So I really want us to make sure that you are showing up 5 minutes early to show that, hey, you are dedicated here. We can depend on you. And so that's how I would go about really giving that sandwich method, being clear and concise about what the issue is, and then going and saying what those next steps are with the 5 minutes there and everything. But that's how I go about giving feedback, both positive and negative feedback. Now, negative, a lot more emotions that go on there. So you want to be a lot more clear, a lot more concise on that, and make sure that you're not in the heat of the moment as you say that. So that is a caveat there. Unless if they just blatantly like disrespected you, like cussed you out or something, you need to be calm as the leader or as the individual that's being the one cussed out to. But you need to make sure that you address it right there, because that is something that would be a public matter that needs to be addressed right then and there. Hey, John, you don't talk that way. I don't care who it is, whether it's me or not. This is not something we do on our team. Our team is supposed to respect every individual, no matter their level, and we're not going to accept this. And you showing that in front of the team will let the team know that they can't accept it either, that this is something that will not be tolerated, and especially as you as the leader need to show that front, so that way they feel empowered to be able to say something when that happens to them, rather than feeling like, oh, I might get fired if I say anything, so I'm just not going to say anything. Oh, John's Philip's boy, I better not say anything. No, say that right then and there. Now, if they maybe said something, they disagreed with your point a little bit, but it wasn't something super disrespectful, but they came up with some information and kind of slide at you a little bit, maybe that's something you take offline. Maybe it's something you come to them afterwards, not in front of everybody. Just say, hey, you said this here. I don't know if you meant it this way, but I feel like you kind of slide at me a little bit. There's information that I didn't know, but then your tone and how you said it came off as if you thought I was dumb. Like you were putting me in a really awkward position in front of the rest of the team. You do a great job, and I appreciate your insight. And I look to you for the insight and the expertise. But unless if I'm completely off base, like please don't do stuff like that, because that just makes us look like we're not on the same front together, and it makes it look like you are just putting me down and trying to make yourself look better. And that just doesn't look well for the team, and people don't want to be led by those that are just going to put others down any chance they get. And that's what that's starting to look like. So again, this is the different situations there where you may go immediately into nipping it in the bud, giving that feedback immediately for the corrective action, and other times you may do that off to the side a little bit later and everything.